I'll shut up and turn it over to Towne, who's our Chief of Fire Official here at Konza. And I know it's going to be an entertaining presentation. So Gene, go right ahead.
Well, I didn't know it was supposed to be entertaining. I put in some other slides. I can do that. Because it's more informative to let you know what's going on. I'm really happy to see the good turnout. When we first got notice, it was like 17 people signed up, and I said, well, I want to use my quick slides instead of my long slides. And then yesterday, Bob sent me an email and said, well, now we got 42. And so then I had to go in and add my longer slide list to do a longer talk. But just to give you an idea of what we're going to talk about today is what we do on Konza and why we do it, which is different than most of the ranchers in the Flint Hills do. And then we're going to cover what each responsibility is going to be as you on the fire crew. Everybody's got their own jobs to do, so we'll cover what those will be. We'll cover safety and emergency procedures in case something happens, and they quite often do. We'll finish up, we'll go, after a break, go over to the headquarters, and we'll talk about the equipment and go over it about what equipment we have to use and how to use it, just to familiarize yourself with what we have. Well, to just kind of an introduction, we have about 47 watersheds on Konza that we burn at different intervals, and that means that most of our burning is done here in the spring, and we start our spring burning next week. We probably will not do any burning next week. We have two watersheds that we burn in the autumn, two which is in November, two of them that we burn in February. It's not going to happen this year. They're going to be March burns. And everybody's favorite, the summer burn. This is the one Chad looks forward to every year. Summer burns, and we will be doing them this year. They are easy burns. They're just smoky as all get out. I have a lot of people come up and ask me, since they want to burn because they used to burn for their dad or used to burn on a ranch or whatever. So they say, well, I really want to get involved with Konza burning. Konza burning is not the same as this burning out the ranchers, the way the ranchers in the Flint Hills do. The main reason is because we have a lot of ungrazed watersheds that have a tremendous amount of fuel in them, which means they burn hot. We have to be very careful of them. And then we have a lot of watersheds that we don't want burned that are right adjacent to a watershed that we are burning. So the whole key is fire control, keeping the fire within this watershed, rather than keeping it out of that watershed. So it's not like you throw a match in the ditch and say, let her go, let her stop at the creek. Or like a rancher I used to work for, throw a match in the edge of the road and called the neighbor up and said, fire's coming your way. we cannot operate that way. In addition, we have a lot of equipment out in the watersheds that we have to burn around and make sure that they don't get destroyed. One year we had something, they disregarded my warning to get the equipment out, and they lost some equipment. We have the prairie chicken blinds. We try to get the people out of there before. We have a lot of plots around headquarters, and some of those plots are fertilized with nitrogen, extremely hot fire. Even though they're small plots, tremendously high biomass in those areas, and so they're really hot fire and much more difficult to control, which means keep them within that area so that they don't get to the plot next door. So our basic mission is to keep the fire controlled within the area that it's supposed to be. And it is not to go out there and get a big adrenaline rush from burning. We try and have a little bit of fun and joke around a bit, but it's serious business. And so once we light the match, the focus is on keeping the fire in the area it's supposed to be. So if you're looking for an adrenaline rush that you get like people want to get when they burn the forest fires, the Forest Service attracts a lot of people because they like that rush of burning. This is as close as we're going to get. Our stick forest. The stick forest is now gone, but we did have to really fight one time to save those from burning up. And that's about as close as we get to burning. A little bit of burning trees. A little bit about wildfires. There's two types of wildfires. One of them is the accidental wildfires that are caused by lightning. Somebody's throwing a match out, throwing a cigarette out, and they just start. These we have no control over. Once they get stuck going, time anybody knows anything about them, they call it in. We normally call the Riley County or Geary County out to help us because they get going and they're not controlled at all. So they need more equipment than what we have. The other type of wildfires is the most common, and that's escape from a planned burn. And so we go to a lot of time and careful planning to prevent these kind of wildfires. So we don't want escapes. However, they happen. We just want to minimize it. So everything we're going to be doing and why we do it is to minimize escapes. Just a brief mention about code orange. Everybody that works out on Konza ought to have a code orange in their vehicle. And all this is just a telephone numbers of people to call in case you see something. Years ago we had some students out here that was just driving around collecting something. And they saw a file coming off the interstate. They didn't know who to call. So they didn't know whether it was a wildfire or whatever. They just diddled back in. And finally, before we found out about it, what was going on, it burned up 10 more watersheds than what it would otherwise burned up if they had called it in and said, hey, something's going on out here that ain't supposed to. So a code orange list has everybody that's really involved with the Konza unit out here and those that do a lot of burning. So it's a good thing to have so that you can call somebody in case something happens. And a little bit about who we have to work. Me, our new professor, co-professor now. Greg, he's the other crew leader. Tom Van Slyke, the site manager. Jim Lawkins, the site foreman out here. And these are mostly involved in getting everything ready. John Briggs is on most of the burns too. He's the director. Eva Horn, the assistant director. That's one of my tractor drivers. Amanda Cool, come on, hurry up. I'll put too big of a delay on that. Amanda Cool is a tractor driver for us. And then in addition, we have a lot of regulars that are quite often involved in the burns that I can rely on to help whenever we need extra help. This is quite different from what it used to be in the old days. In the old days, we didn't have this core group of people, and it was going out twisting arms of grad students and begging people, say, come on, give up your classes, we need help burning. Nowadays, we don't have to do that as much, but we still need 14 to 16 people on a burn. And that means we have to get some additional help that comes from the docents and grad students and some undergrad students. So we do rely upon volunteers now. It's just not as much as what we used to have to. And I always get calls about people that are not directly affiliated with biology or K-State that say, hey, they want to be involved. We didn't used to do that. We don't necessarily encourage it, but we can under special circumstances. If you're not directly affiliated with KSU, be involved in it, but there's some legalese that has to be solved first. But normally it's just people that are directly affiliated that are either doing research out on Konza or directly involved with Konza one way or the other. This is not federal land. If you burn on federal land, you're required to have a red card. When you get a red card, Jackie, you have a red card? Get a red card, you got to have like 30 some hours of classroom training. Well, we're only going to have 1 hour today, so don't worry about that. 1 hour of training today, and get your red card, 30 some hours, and then you got to do a 3-mile hike in 45 minutes carrying a 45-pound sack or something. Otherwise, they really push you. They want people that are in really good shape. I don't have that kind of standards. You know, I take anything. But But even though we will take anything that walks, it's still not for, it is not for everybody. We do not want people out there that cannot handle it. It is a very strenuous and rigorous task. You're out there breathing smoke, you're walking up and down hills, and it is tough on you. And if you're not in good shape, you're going to be suffering at the end of the day. And we haven't ever had anybody drop on us. We do have defibrillators in the vehicles now, so if you do drop, somebody can shock you. Every now and then I get it out and just scoot people along a little bit and see if it works. But in fact, my policy used to be, it says if you drop, we'll scoot you off to the side. We're going to finish the burn. We'll come back and get you. Then I was told that was a little bit too harsh, and I needed to be more compassionate. So I said, okay, we'll scoot you off to the side and give you a can of Coke. And we'll come back and get you. But it's really a serious business. If somebody drops on us, we are setting a fire, basically, and that we've got to stop if somebody drops and attend to them. But we're out in the middle of nowhere. It's not like we're going to get an ambulance out there in 5 minutes. If somebody drops because of a heart condition or lung conditions, they're going to be there for a long while. And we still have a burn that we have to conduct, or otherwise the whole Konza is going to burn up. So even though it is nice to have people that want to burn, I would strongly recommend that unless you're in pretty good shape, not to do this unless you volunteer for stuff. Say, okay, I'd like to be involved and I can do stuff like being a rover, and that's not strenuous. You're out there just watching the fire to make sure that it stays where it's going to be. But to do it, the actual involvement and breathing the smoke, it's tough. And I just don't want people dropping out there on us.